Well, I've been talking about it for a while, but this is the very first video where I'm going to start doing the mods to the guitar that Gary Kahler and I are going to give away with the help of Seymour Duncan, GraphTech, and D'Addario. This thing's going to be loaded with a lot of awesome stuff, and when we're done demoing all this stuff, it's going to go to one lucky viewer, maybe you. How's it going today, everybody? Eddie Kernan for Rexylab. Welcome to the Guitarmory. It's finally time. I'm finally going to start doing stuff with the Strat here. What we need to do first is actually put the 2300 on this guitar, the entire reason that we're giving it away. This guitar is going to be used to demo swapping out different parts on a Kahler cam-based system. We're going to use it to demonstrate the different tones that you get from different rollers, different cams, different things like that. We're going to put a lot of cool stuff on it, but the very first thing is putting the Kahler on. In order to do that, what we're going to have to do first is take off this bridge. But before I can take off the bridge, I need to make sure that I know my point of reference. Mainly, first off, is it in tune? Next, is it intonated? Well, it's in tune. And the intonation is great. That's fantastic. So what we'll have to do is make sure that when this thing is installed, these saddles will be able to line up with where these saddles are right here. Now, back in the day, Kahler actually designed this to kind of drop on here. There's still some routing that's required, but these outer holes right here match the outer holes of an American 6-hole Strat. Now, notice I said American 6-hole Strat. At the time of design of the 2300, that was all there was. There was no Mexican 6-hole Strat or anything like that. So we're going to make sure the distance of these holes is correct. On top of that, we're going to make sure that the intonation is good, where the saddles are going to go is good. So we can see I got some low-tack sticky tape here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little mark right there by this low E and another mark right here by the high E. And the whole point of that is just to make sure that the saddles on the 2300 will line up. That is a very nice traditional bridge. It's got very, very limited travel. Let's see if these holes line up. It would appear that they do. So now what I'm going to have to do is take the cam off of this thing in order to get it to fit in here. All Kahlers are standard. They're not metric. First thing we do is we unlock it back here at the 1/16. Now, Gary Kahler likes to leave the bar in for this. I just hold it up like this, but the first thing that I do is make sure that all the tension is off this load spring. And I already know that it is. So now I'm just going to push with my hands, but I got strong fingers. So what I'm going to do with absolutely zero tension on these springs is unscrew the springs from the plate, but leave them on the cam. Now I'm going to take the cam off using this 3/32 right here, and we're just going to set it aside for a minute. And it just drops right out. Very simple. So now we're going to just see if it fits. First off, let's put this thing in here. Let's line up the screws first. Looks like Fender drilled that hole crooked, but that's okay, it went in. And as we can see, that was absolutely no modification. It just went in on those outer screw holes of the American 6-hole Strat. Here's something else that's kind of neat about the 2300. If you look closely, this side is shorter than this side. But it looks like we're good to go and we're ready to start routing on this thing. So I'm going to strip it and prep this thing for routing. Now, I love showing you guys all kinds of stuff, all kinds of great stuff, but I'm not going to show you how to route because it's dangerous. So if you know how, you know what I'm doing. And if you don't know how and you're interested, find somebody competent to teach you. A router's a dangerous tool. You could get really, really hurt. Well, I got the body set up with the routing template, and that's great. So we'll be taking care of that in a minute. But I figured this would be a really good time to swap out the Fender tuners with these GraphTech ratio locking tuners. And they're graduated too, so that's extra cool. Here's something that's kind of funny about these things though. You see those two little raised dots right there? Well, that's a Fender thing, so that you don't have to put a hole in the back. And the GraphTech ones have them too. They're not the same at all. The GraphTech ones are just a little bit different. So we need an adapter to adapt them. So if we get a real tight look on that adapter plate, we can not only see the nubs, but we can see the holes where they go. There it is, once again, GraphTech ratio locking tuners. The ratio of each one of these, typically it's 18:1, but they're completely different for every string with the GraphTech. It's something they worked on. It's very, very cool. And you can see that it's got a taller profile down here and a shorter one down here, so it pulls your strings down. And these were donated by GraphTech when I told them that Kahler was giving away a Strat. They said, we want in. So, thank you, GraphTech. They also gave me a nut, too. We'll be putting that on as well. As we can see, I have done the route to accommodate for the cam. What's behind this plate right now is completely gone. There's nothing there, so our string ground is going to have to get transferred over to here, which is why I drilled a hole right there, so this just pop through and get right to the bridge. I'm gonna make this a little bit longer than normal, and we're gonna tuck it right here so that it will definitely for sure 100% hit the screw, and it'll also definitely for sure 100% touch the bottom of the bridge. We got to put this cam back on now, and that can be a little bit of a trick. But I enjoy being tricky, so I'm going to show you guys how I do this. And I was actually shown this by Gary Kahler, so this is his trick too. This is the right way to do it. We're going to pick either side that these screws go in for that bearing right there, and just drive that thing all the way forward. Okay, so we see it sticking out there. Now we're going to go in here, and we're going to just line that up. Okay, so I brought it out a little too far. Better too far than not far enough. Back it off just a little bit. Okay, great. So now that's in there. And now we can just gently figure this out over here. Now the danger is that you don't hit that hole and you just smash the bearing. So be careful. So that's loosely flip-flopping on there. I like it. Bring this in all the way and then back it off a quarter turn. All the way. Back it off a quarter turn. Just give that a little bump forward. Okay, we're good. Let's not forget that we have to put these screws back in too. I did it the way that I do it last time. I'll do it the way Gary does it this time. Put this bar back in. We'll get this lined up and ready to go. And we just use that bar. Yeah, it's pretty easy to control with that bar. Now we'll just bring this back in to where it's fixed, pop this thing out, and now we're ready to install this in the guitar. Something else you'll notice is that you get 4 screws when you get one of these things. It's 2 of one size screw and 2 of another size screw. And where do they go? These ones right here, the longer ones, they go up front and they will not fit in these back ones. Also, these have a little bit of a bevel to them, and these have a round head, so you should be able to figure out pretty easily what goes where. And let's just make sure. There it is. Now what we're going to have to do is drill these just a little bit. I'm going to eyeball this, but if you're unsure yourself, definitely mark the thing. Straighter than Fender's hole. All right, there she is. Looking beautiful. Well, it's time to put the neck back on, and you know what? I'm going to do one little change for me. So that is the neck plate. that came on this thing, and it's really cool. It says Fender and it's great, but I just had this made by a friend of mine, and I had 2 made in chrome, 2 made in gold, and 2 made in black. Now the black ones are the only ones that work flawlessly. This one works, but you got to kind of be funky with it. So you know what? Lesson learned. They'll all be black from here on out. So this is the only one that's going to go out in the wild that isn't black. Well, it's time to string this thing up, and Diodario was kind enough to provide the strings. Now, I want to point out real quick that as of right now, there is no string lock on here. I will be putting one on. There's going to be so much done with this that I'm just going to wait until next time. But we've got the ratio locking tuners, so technically we don't need one, but if you're locking here and locking here, you get the maximum amount of travel out of your whammy bar. Because down here does not lock, it's pretty important to lock up here to get all the travel out of a Kahler that you can. But you know what? We're not looking for travel yet. And I'm going to show you guys the proper way to do locking tuners. I see a lot of people do this wrong. There's only one way you're supposed to do locking tuners, and that is straight through, lock it, as minimal string on there as possible. You know, you don't even want one solid wrap. Now remember, I'm locked down here at the bridge. So this right here is at the optimum height. I'll just take all these off right now and just make my life easy. So now we poke the string through right here. I take it through. I'm going to take this little pokey sucker that I have, and I'm going to kind of put a little kink in there. And I'm just going to use this thing to guide it in exactly where I want. I can already see that this needs to be raised. So what the heck, let's just do that. Pull this through tight. Tighten it up on the bottom. Flip her on in there. Okay, that's it. That's all the more you want, is just that sticking out. One of the really cool things about this bridge is that you can move this wherever. And so we want to try to get this to line up with the pole pieces as best as we can. Looks like that's about as far over as we can go. Might as well just move them all, I guess. Hopefully these things are going to want to be spread out a little bit. We'll find out in a minute. All right, it looks like when Fender set this thing up and they drilled the holes and everything, their bridge holes and their pickguard holes were just a little bit off. And that's okay, because that's something we can fix when we put the new pickguard on there with the Seymour Duncans. But for now, let's try to fix this as best we can. Well, we're in relatively good shape, but those strings are a million miles off the neck. I could lower this down here, but the best way to ensure that it stays in the saddle is to keep those saddles kind of high. I'm going to just shim the neck and change the angle of it. Couple pieces of business card will do it. Just got to put it right there, basically. So as such, I'm just going to nip off some corners. And we're just going to try to bring this up a little bit. Usually 2 will do, but I want to move this a lot, so we'll see. I changed it a lot, but we'll see if it's enough. I am going to double shim this thing. It should be in fairly relative tune. As soon as I get done with that, then I will be checking the neck to see how straight it is. The neck is exactly the way I like it. So now it's time to check the height of all the strings. At the 12th fret, I like it to be right around 7. I think that looks really good. Let's check and see that we're in tune. And then it's time to intonate. All right, feels good, everything looks good. So now what we're gonna do is make sure that everything is intonated properly. And as soon as we have that done, then we'll adjust the spring and get the bridge floating right. All right. All right, that's flat. Notice I'm doing this in the playing position because if you do it laying flat on its back, gravity will affect it. I knew that if the B was out, that the E would be out too. Okay, so now we're intonated. I just double check real quick. My action's where I like it. My neck relief is where I like it. The intonation is spot on. Guitar's in tune, everything's great. It's time to adjust this floaty thing here. We're gonna put that 1/16 back in there. And now we're gonna put this 5/64 right here. I'm not gonna feel any resistance for a little bit. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to feel it. Now one thing I want to show you before I pop this out, the way the cam is sitting. So we know that this thing is in tune when it's sitting absolutely perfect. Okay, now we're floating. Okay, so we're flat. So I'm just gonna adjust this until this one string says that it's in tune. Okay. Now they should all be in tune. And they are. And that's how you set it up. It's actually really simple. But this wasn't a setup video. This was an I'm putting a Kahler on this Strat that we're going to give to somebody video. And now that's on here, as are the GraphTech ratio locking tuners. And that's awesome. But there's still the Seymour Duncans. They are not on here yet. And I'm putting some special switching in here to where this won't be a 5-tone guitar. It'll be a 20-tone guitar. You'll be able to make it sound like it's got humbuckers, P90s, whatever. But you're going to have to wait to see that one until next time. And I just want to say thank you to Kahler for making this happen. Thank you to GraphTech for giving us the ratio locking tuners. We'll be doing what Seymour Duncan handed us next time. It's going to be really cool. So until then, this has been Eddie Kernan for Rexylab, making the world a better place, one giveaway guitar at a time.